Because Prince Harry is accusing sources of attempting to sabotage his reconciliation with the King.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because it does make you wonder, because, of course, he himself denies reports that he branded his recent reunion with his father formal, distinctly formal.
Well, it's the first meeting in about 2 years, and Harry apparently joked he felt more like an official visitor rather than a member of the royal family.
But now his spokesperson said the claims were pure invention fed, one can only assume, by sources intent on sabotaging any reconciliation between father and son.
Let's talk to royal commentator Jack Stooks. Jack, good morning to you.
Hi,
it has to be said, there is an air of truth to this, isn't there? The idea that insiders are trying to put a stop to this. The idea that it was a very formal meeting is frankly ridiculous.
I mean, yes, you know, we've seen Harry time and time again have these meetings and go back and tell everybody what was said. Now, the reports that are coming out are saying that they're saying that it was a formal meeting, and they're saying that a gift was given. That's all that they've come up with. They haven't actually said what was spoken about at that meeting. So I do not think that Harry's going around telling anybody about this meeting. I think he does want reconciliation. I think he does want, to be back in the fold and actually be working with the family again. I know he's spoken about, time and time again, wanting to do a little bit of royal meetings, a little bit of work here and there. And I think that what we gather is that the King may have said, no, it's all in or all out, just like the Queen said before. But I don't see a problem with this half in, half out, because if you look at all the figures of all the other royals that are doing public engagements, some years, Prince William does a lot less engagements than Princess Anne, for instance. So does that mean that year that Prince William was half out? No, it doesn't. It's ridiculous. The royals doing public events and public engagements, whether they do 5 public engagements a year or 200, they're still actually helping the royal family. So why is it that, Harry's not helping? And it does. It makes pure sense, especially in this moment in time when we've got an ill king who, we don't know how long he can carry on with his public duties. We really don't. I mean, he's an amazing person as he is. He sort of pushes and strives along. But I don't see that Harry's gone off and told anybody anything. I think it's all been sort of made up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, certainly any of the people I've spoken to, and so the journalists here in the newsroom behind us, you all think that this doesn't sound as though this was leaked by Harry. It really doesn't, because he's clearly very upset that any of it is in the papers, and he's saying that quite a few of the facts are actually untrue, demonstrably untrue, he says.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't Harry, then who was it? Now, he is sort of talking about the men in grey suits, which I'm afraid is the way Princess Diana used to talk, that people in the grey suits, the courtiers around, were briefing against her. And I can't help wondering now whether the courtiers think, frankly, it's better now if Harry stays away. So they're trying everything they can to keep him away.
Well, exactly. I mean, we don't actually know where it's coming from, like you said, and like you say, the men in grey suits, there are people like that within any business, as we know. There's people in the household that might not want the king seeing a certain person, so they might try and keep the king from seeing a certain person. They might suddenly have an idea that they don't like a certain person, so they might try and push that person out of a job. And we've seen that time and time again in so many businesses, so many companies. So it doesn't seem unreasonable to think that that's happening in the palace either. Now, Harry's been away as long as he has. And, some people in the palace might think, why should he be coming back in? But it's not really down to them, and it's not really down to, a person that may have seen the photo and, might have said to someone, oh, actually, I saw Harry holding a photo in the car on the way into Clarence House. I mean, it could be as simple as that, so it may not be coming from anywhere sinister, but no, we don't know where it's coming from, but it is odd, because normally we would hear exactly what was said in the meeting, and we haven't heard what was said. So I don't think it's coming from Harry, because it was probably only Harry and the King in that meeting.
Family, welcome back to the Royal Sussex Squad, your #1 home for truth, context and facts about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the couple that continues to thrive and shine despite endless lies and targeted hostility from the British establishment and their obedient tabloid mouthpieces. Today, we're diving deep into a disturbing and infuriating story that once again exposes the shocking negligence, hypocrisy and double standards surrounding Prince Harry's safety. According to reports, a known stalker, yes, a woman previously flagged for following the Sussexes internationally, came within feet of Prince Harry during his recent visit to the UK. And get this, she managed to breach a secure zone at the Royal Lancaster Hotel just before the Wellchild Awards, and then appeared again 2 days later at another event in West London. Twice. The same stalker, near Harry, in the so-called secure UK. Now, let's stop right there, squad, because this isn't just a small security slip. This is a major failure, a dangerous situation that could have ended tragically. And what's even more infuriating, there were no police officers present. 0. Harry's private team had to intervene and physically block the woman themselves. That's right. A member of his team, not law enforcement, had to physically stop a potentially unstable person from reaching Prince Harry. Imagine that. A man born into the royal family, once one of the most protected individuals in the world, now forced to rely on his own staff for protection in a country that still uses his face, his name, and his image for royal PR when it suits them. This entire situation is disgraceful and, frankly, dangerous. You see, Harry has long warned that the threats against him, Meghan and their family, are real. He's not imagining things, and he's not being dramatic. He's lived through the worst-case scenario, losing his mother because the institution and the media refuse to take safety seriously. And now here we are, decades later, watching history dangerously try to repeat itself. Let's also remember, this woman isn't new to Harry's radar. She's reportedly followed the Duke and Duchess abroad, including to Nigeria last year. Think about that for a moment. That's not a fan. That's not a random bystander. That's someone with a pattern, someone on the radar of a private intelligence firm because she's considered one of those fixated individuals. So, if a private company knows who she is and Harry's team knows who she is, then how is it possible that UK authorities didn't act? How is it possible that the Home Office, Ravec, or whoever claims to manage royal security just stood by and allowed this breach to happen? Again, this isn't incompetence. This is deliberate neglect. Harry lost his legal challenge against the Home Office earlier this year after trying to appeal the removal of his police protection when he's in the UK. And now we see exactly why he's been fighting so hard. He's not fighting for prestige, he's fighting for survival. He's fighting for the safety of his family and those around him. According to reports, Harry feels enormous guilt that his public profile puts others at risk, that people close to him are forced to play security guard, risking their own safety because the British government refuses to do its job. Let that sink in. The son of King Charles III, a combat veteran who served this very country, can't even get adequate protection on British soil. But somehow taxpayers are still funding security for non-working royals who do nothing but attend fashion shows, garden parties and gossip luncheons. Where is the logic in that? Neil Basu, the former head of counter-terrorism policing, not some tabloid pundit, not some royal expert, said straight up, "It's a mistake not to have reassessed Harry's threat level." He called it out for what it is. The most common threats against royals come from fixated individuals, the very kind who managed to get near Harry twice. And Mr. Basu made it clear the only way to stop those kinds of people is to be close to the principal, to surround them with trained professionals ready to act instantly. That's what should have happened. Instead, Harry's staff were left to improvise. And let's not ignore this part. Mr. Basu also hinted that this whole mess might be tied to family politics, that Harry's relationship with his father, the king, could be key to resolving the security dispute. In other words, royal influence could make a difference if the king wanted it to. But Buckingham Palace, as usual, rushed to deny it, calling it false and damaging, to suggest otherwise. Oh, really? Because it sure looks like Harry's treatment is political. It sure looks like payback for daring to step out of the royal machine and live freely with Meghan in peace. And remember, Harry didn't choose to lose his protection. The institution took it away the moment he and Meghan said, "We're not playing your game anymore." And that's the real issue. This isn't about protocol. It's about punishment. When Harry served in Afghanistan, he was given protection because he was seen as valuable to the crown. When Harry started speaking truth about racism, about mental health, about media abuse, suddenly he became disposable. But here's the truth, squad. Harry's value doesn't come from the crown. It comes from his courage, his integrity, and his commitment to doing what's right, even when it costs him. Let's talk about how dangerous this situation really is. Harry hasn't had a formal threat review since 2019. Back then, he was ranked at the highest risk level, the same as Queen Elizabeth II and the Prime Minister. That was before he spoke out against the tabloids, before the onslaught of hate campaigns, before years of online radicalisation targeting him and Meghan. So if he was high risk back then, what on earth makes them think he's less at risk now? Because he moved to California? Because they don't like his wife? Because he told the truth? You can't switch off a threat level just because you don't like someone's choices. That's not how security works. And Neil Basu said something powerful. He said assessing each visit separately doesn't work. You can't cherry-pick when someone deserves protection. Threats don't take breaks. Stalkers don't wait for official events. He said it plainly. They're giving him protection at the events where he least requires it, and not when he actually needs it. That's madness. You're either at risk all the time, or you're not. And Harry is. This whole setup is designed to make Harry look ungrateful, dramatic and paranoid. But every time he comes to the UK, the facts prove otherwise. Let's also not forget, Harry wrote to the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, urging a review of his situation. That's a man who's trying to do things properly through the right channels. And yet the system keeps slamming doors in his face. Meanwhile, the British tabloids, the same ones that fuel the hate, mock him for even caring about his safety. They say things like, "He's not a working royal, why should he get protection?" But those same outlets publish where he's staying, who he's meeting, what car he's driving. They stir up obsession, then laugh when he demands safety. It's cruel and it's deliberate. Harry has made it clear. He won't bring Meghan or their children back to the UK until proper security is in place. And who can blame him? Imagine letting your wife and children walk into a country that refuses to protect them, despite knowing they're global targets for deranged individuals. Harry's right to draw that line. A husband protects his family, and a father protects his children. So, while the royal institution hides behind red tape and excuses, Prince Harry continues to do what he's always done. Take responsibility, face the danger, and fight for what's right. Let's call this what it is: Another example of the establishment trying to humiliate and control someone who refuses to bow down. But it won't work. The world sees through it now. Harry and Meghan have built a global platform rooted in service, compassion and integrity, something the royals can't stand because it exposes how shallow their PR really is. And through it all, Harry remains calm, focused and resolute. He's still out there showing up for causes like Well Child, for veterans, for children, for the environment, even when the UK won't show up for him. So, yes, the system failed again, but Harry didn't. Prince Harry's security breached by Stalker, as ex-police chief warns lack of protection, is a mistake. A member of Harry's private team recognised her and physically blocked her from approaching him. A known stalker came within feet of Prince Harry on 2 occasions during his visit to the UK last month, raising renewed concerns about his security arrangements, GB News can confirm. The woman, who is believed to have mental health issues, entered a secure zone at London's Royal Lancaster Hotel ahead of the Well Child Awards on September 9th. 2 days later, she was spotted again, this time near the Centre for Blast Injury Studies in West London, security sources told the People's Channel. She is understood to have previously followed the Duke and Duchess of Sussex abroad, including to Nigeria last year. A member of Harry's private team recognised her and physically blocked her from approaching him, despite not knowing if she was armed. There were no police officers at the event. The woman is listed among so-called fixated individuals monitored by a private intelligence company for Harry's personal security. The Duke reportedly feels enormous guilt that his public profile puts others at risk, with a friend saying, "It should not be left to 2 office staff to act as extra eyes and ears or provide a physical barrier. That should not happen. It is only going to take one motivated, lone individual for this to go south very quickly." Harry has continued to push for a full risk assessment of his security while in the UK after losing his legal challenge against the Home Office earlier this year. He has not had a formal threat review since April 2019, when he was ranked in the highest risk category alongside Queen Elizabeth II and then Prime Minister Theresa May. Neil Basu, the former head of counter-terrorism policing and a former member of the Royal Security Committee, Ravek, told The Telegraph that it was a mistake not to have reassessed Harry's threat level. "The most common nature of threat to a member of the royal family has been fixated individuals," Mr. Basu said. "The only way of stopping those kinds of people is to be close to the principal and to smother them if they get approached. I wasn't aware that that happened, but that should underline immediately how high risk he is when he's here." Mr. Basu said Harry's relationship with his father, King Charles, was key to resolving the security row, suggesting that the King's private secretary, Sir Clive Alderton, has influence over such matters. The fact is this: if the Met had been asked to protect the Duke of Sussex by either the head of state, whether it was the Queen at the time or the future King, we would protect that person. However, Buckingham Palace strongly rejected the idea that family relations played any role, insisting that Ravek operates independently of royal influence. A source said it was false and damaging to suggest otherwise. Mr. Basu said the Duke's legal case was unwinnable, but argued that removing his automatic protection was ethically wrong. Well, they've made a decision not to protect him. They have a rationale for that. They're entitled to that rationale. I just happen to think it is wrong. He added that Harry's security had become entangled in a family dispute following his decision to step back from royal duties and move abroad. Since leaving his working role, the Duke has only received full police protection during official royal events such as the late Queen's funeral and the King's coronation. On other visits, his team must rely on private security and call 999 if incidents arise. Mr. Basu warned that assessing each visit separately doesn't work and leaves the Duke exposed. They're giving him the protection at the events where he least requires it, and not when he actually needs it. You're either at threat all of the time or you're not. Harry has written to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, urging her to review his situation. He has said he will not bring Meghan or their children to Britain until they're given adequate protection. The Duke remains as determined as ever to fight the perceived injustice and will keep plugging away until he feels the issue has been treated with a straight bat, the Telegraph reported. And we, the Sussex Squad, will continue to stand beside him and Meghan, to amplify their truth, to push back against the smear campaigns, and to call out the cruelty that hides behind royal protocol. If anything, this latest security breach should remind the world of what Harry has been saying for years. The threats are real, and ignoring them could lead to tragedy. It's time for accountability. It's time for the UK government to stop playing politics with people's lives. And it's time for the public to demand better, because if this can happen to a prince, imagine what happens to everyday people. Prince Harry has faced enough. It's time to protect him properly. Period. And that's where we'll leave it for today, family. But before we go, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share this video, and tap super thanks to support independent voices like ours that refuse to bow to royal spin or tabloid lies. We'll keep telling the truth, standing with Harry and Meghan, and exposing the hypocrisy one story at a time. Until next time, stay kind, stay critical, and keep shining that Sussex Squad light.